everyone, welcome to another episode of Tea Time with Tommy, the pro wrestling podcast with Tommy, NORBZ, and me, Brittany. So on this very special episode, we have a legend, a Hall of Famer, Bushwhacker Luke. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Whoa, g'day, mateys. It's great to be on your show. And all my fans out in Ontario, Canada, how you bloody well doing, guys?
That was beautiful. Wow. I will always remember that. I'll always remember that, Bushwhacker Luke.
So first things first, Bushwhacker Luke, what inspired you to become a pro wrestling wrestler?
Didn't even know what pro wrestling was, mate, darling. His next door neighbor was a bodybuilder, and he went in a contest for Mr. New Zealand. And the judge, he came second in the contest. The judge said to him, would you like to make some money with that body? And he says, what are you talking about? He says, come into Coolman's Gymnasium in Wellington. That's the capital city in New Zealand. And we have we have 2 rings there, and see what you think about becoming a professional wrestler. So he was doing it for about 6 months, and then he dragged me with him into the gym. And that it was an old gym like in the first Rocky movie, the old steam pipes rattling and all that sort of stuff. All the dumbbells were laying around the floor. There was no racks. There was only a bench press rack and a squat machine, and that was it. Everything was scattered all over the place, and 2 rings, and the floors in the rings were as hard as the floor I'm standing on now. So I started going to the gym with them and that, and I'd never been to a wrestling match and never seen it. We didn't even have television in New Zealand until 1967, and I'm talking about 1961. So anyhow, my second wrestling match I went to live, and that it was 100 miles away from the capital city. One of the guys never arrived. Next minute, I got a pair of boots thrown to me and a tank top, and I had a pair of jeans on, and I was in the ring. How's that?
Amazing.
Wow. Yeah,
wow.
And I don't remember a bloody thing about the match.
That's amazing.
And then I saw a couple of wrestling magazines, American magazines and that, and blah, blah, blah. And anyhow, it was all English-style wrestling in New Zealand then. You know, European English style.
Wow. Yep.
It wasn't American style.
European wrestling, yes. Absolutely. Wow. That was amazing. Like, man, we could just sit here all day listening to your stories, Bushwhacker Luke. Have to ask, question is, you've been traveling with of course, your tag team partner, Butch, in your career. So many memories. Traveling around the world was probably really exciting. What is the most memorable things that you can tell us, you can share, Bushwhacker Luke?
Okay, then the most memorable time was in the last show in Wembley Stadium in England, in London. It was the last show of any kind of show there before they pulled it down and built the new one. It was 1992 or 91. It was Bret Hart against Davey Boy, you know, the British Bulldog. And then I don't know what year that was, 91 or 92. And it was But it was
it SummerSlam?
Huh?
SummerSlam 92?
Yeah, was that the one?
Yeah,
it was,
SummerSlam 1992.
Yeah. There was 96,400 or 94,600, one of the other people there. And, of course, you know, a big arena like that, the people start coming in an hour before the show to get, and that. So they come in an hour and a half because it's such a big building. Anyhow, we were the first match. And, of course, the first match is the people are dying to see something after sitting around for so long. And it was a 6-man. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Butch and me against the Nasty Boys in the Mountie. Wow. And then here we march out, and you look up and you see that crowd. And there's we get in the ring and we all march over the ropes, Duggan following us, and we put our heads through the ropes. Butch does a whoa, I do the yay, and the Hacksaw Jim Duggan does a ho. And we went to 4 ropes. Now we could have done that for 10 minutes. We went to every rope, the 4 ropes, and did it. Put our heads under the top rope and did our usual ha-ha, and that, and the people were, it was insane. The aura in the building, well, it's an open air place, was crazy, and that the match was so the noise level never went down through the whole match, and it was the opening match, and we had the people. It was, hey, I can't explain how it was. You got to be in that ring with that crowd, 96,000 looking down at you, and being in there performing.
Yeah, definitely. SummerSlam 92 was one of my favorite pay-per-view events. And the crowd in London, England was just amazing, like from beginning to finish. And you being the opening match, especially to get the crowd going. It's unbelievable. I mean, that's the way to start the show, right? So
yeah, a lot of people,
incredible.
a lot of the boys and that, they think, first match, that's for jabronis. And that first match is the one who gets that crowd. You know, if the first match is a piece of SHIT, it takes a while to wind the crowd up, maybe till the third match, till you get the people involved. And once that first match, and you get them, the crowd are there for the night.
The Bushwhackers always got the crowd involved, always. You guys always got the
total fan favorites. And speaking of fan favorites, you were really popular with the fans with Butch. I got to ask, how did the signature Bushwhacker walk come about?
That was Vince said to us when we went up there, we went up as heels. Don't forget, when we went to WWE, we were blood and guts heels, for NWA. They called us one of the most violent blood and gut team. We were hardcore before hardcore became a name brand, in other words. And all of a sudden we go and do that sort of stuff. And Vince says, I want you to be between the sheep herders and the moondogs. And Butch says to me, well, the sheep herders have been on TBS and TNT, Turner Network for the last 10 years, off and on and that. And then the moondogs have been on USA Network for Vince and that. And he says, let's create something different. And we used to, when we went out the ring, we used to throw our arms up and scream at the people as heels. Wow, yay, you know what I mean? As to try and scare the people and throw our arms up in the air. So we just turned it around, and then Butch came and said, let's march to the ring. And hence we started marching, swinging our arms, and there we are. We had the Bushwhacker. That's the thing that people remember us. They don't remember the wrestling for the Bushwhackers. They remember, as Jesse Ventura would say, here comes the two marching morons.
I just remember me and my brother when we were younger, Bushwhacker Luke, doing that walk in the living room. And my parents would be like, what are you two doing? And we're like, hey, Mom, Dad, we're doing the Bushwhacker walk. It's just so famous.
Yes, in 89, in the end of 88, 89, people in the NFL, when they went over the line and scored, they would do the walk in the end zone. I remember. That's how popular it got at that time, around the 90s.
That's incredible. And then we talked about the Bushwhacker walk. What about your actual name, Bushwhacker? Where did that come from?
We were the sheep herders and that, and when we went up and saw Vince and that, he blah, 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 said to us, I want you as baby faces and all that BS. And then we went home. He said, I'm going to bring you up to do vignettes for the next 2 weeks. I bring you next month. I'm going to bring you up 1 day a week, and all day you'll do vignettes, and that's how we'll get you over. There wasn't no Monday Night Raw then. It was, Monday night, Tuesday night. There was different nights of television because they had all the NBC, ABC, CBS stations, plus they had USA Network. And so we go home anyhow, and 2 days later, Butch rings me up and he says, look, I just got these papers from WWF contracts and that, but they've given us, this must be sent to the wrong people. He says to me, they've got Bushwhackers there. And I told him, said straight away, Butch, they want to own us. Vince registers the name, changes your name and registers it. Well, then he pays you a percentage on merchandise. If he uses your name, you get a bigger percentage, of course. He likes to create his own names for his stars, You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we merchandise and that, You know, we did good in merchandise, but not like we would have if we had our own name used. You know what I mean? Like the Road Warriors. That's why he called them the Legion of Doom up there. So he owned the Legion of Doom name. And all the merchandise at the time was under Legion of Doom.
No, like that's that name brand that always sticks with all of us, us wrestling fans. Have to ask, so you probably asked this a lot in your illustrious career, Bushwhacker Luke, but where did that, whoa, yay, that's just one of the most amazing sayings I've ever heard in wrestling history. Where did that click? How'd you guys create that? Like, where did that come from?
No, we, as heels, when we went out the ring and acted something and jumped out the ring, we would swing our arm up and go at the people. You know, they'd be booing us, and we'd go, whoa! And I would do the yay, you know what I mean? That came when we were heels. When we were mentioned that we were going into the Hall of Fame, Facebook was alive to say, why are you putting those two idiots in the Hall of Fame? They came into WWE in their latter age. No one knew that we had started touring around the world in 1966. I started in this business in 1962, and wow. Butch started in 66. And we tagged up then, and we started going out of New Zealand. We started going out of New Zealand in 66 and 68, 69, and then we came over to North America in 72. Now, the fans, when they saw us going to the Hall of Fame, no one knew this. They didn't know that we'd wrestled names like High Chief Peter Maivia, who was The Rock's grandfather. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. We'd worked with him in Australia, New Zealand, and that, because Peter had a home in New Zealand, you know, being Samoan. And we'd wrestled Killer Kowalski, who sold out Madison Square Gardens in the 60s and 70s. You know, we'd wrestled with him. We even wrestled Stu Hart. You know, the Hart.
Wow.
The Hart's dad, Brad and Owen's dad. No one, you know, this all came out later. You know what I mean? And then they started going back, and they realized we were in Jerry Park in 1973. That broke the record at North America at the time, or one of the biggest houses, 30,000 in Jerry Park. And that was in 1973, and the park where they had the Olympic Games in the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, you definitely mentioned so many of the legends in that comment there. As you mentioned, Jerry Park, I believe that's in Montreal that you guys wrestled on.
The Vachons. The Vachons owned that territory. And we worked against Morris and Paul many times. You know, Mad Dog Vachon and Butcher Vachon.
Would that be considered your toughest match in your career against the Vachons? Or do you have, if you can narrow it down, like what are some of your toughest, most memorable matches in your career?
Morris, Mad Dog Vachon, he would just work. Morris was a baby face in Quebec, but he didn't care. He just went in, kicked and punched. You didn't know what was happening with Morris. You know, Mad Dog. That's how he got his name. He was Mad Dog. And now, you know, the Olympic Games, well, there's the Commonwealth Games or the Empire Games. He was a medalist in that. He was a great amateur. Yeah, no one knew. They did know later, anyhow. But Morris was an animal in the ring. We had some great matches with those. But the most memorable one now, which the people know about now, against two little guys with big hearts, the Fantastics. You know, we worked with them, and they gave Mensa gave us a 5-star match. It was a 1986 Crockett Cup in the New Orleans Superdome. It was us against the Fantastics in the Crockett Cup in the tag tournament.
Wow.
And that's on you. That's on YouTube. And that was one of the people talk about that match for years. You know, they mention that. We did a lot of barbed wire cage matches with the Fantastics. And the other two guys we did a lot of stuff with too, all over the south of USA, was the Fabulous Ones. Steve Curtis, Dan Lane.
Yeah, amazing, legendary names. And I should mention that we recently lost Jim Crockett Jr., passing away recently. So God bless his soul. And he was a tremendous pioneer in the sport of wrestling, especially giving you guys the way on opportunities like those in the past. So it's amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Another person we wrestled when he was only 350, 375. Butcher, we wrestled him for about 2 months in New Zealand, was Andre the Giant. This was well before he wasn't Andre the Giant then, but this was well before he came to North America. He came, we came in 72 to Grand Prix in Montreal. He came in 71, halfway through 71. And we'd worked with Andre everywhere, in New Zealand.
Wow.
Amazing man Andre was.
Yeah. And he was only 375 then. And one of the amazing matches I saw was him and Don Leo Jonathan in the Montreal Forum. And Andre could drop kick. That's how big. At 7'3", he could drop quick and drop kick. And Don Leo with 325 and about 6'9", 6'8", he could do kip-ups. These two guys were phenomenal. For big men, the match was incredible. That's one of the best big man matches I've ever seen.
Wow, that's incredible.
Wow.
Last thing, what is your number one advice to people who want to get to be like you, a legend and a Hall of Famer?
It's a different ball game altogether now. Yeah. You've got to think big, and for people today that want to get into our business and become big time, get a job, work hard, save up your money, and this is if you want to go all the way, and then go to a good wrestling camp full time, train on the weights, and go to a school that is well known, and then after that, if you go to a great name, they will get you into WWF tryout. You know what I mean? There's a few good schools around. They've got a name where they get people into a tryout, but you've got to put your heart down. As I said, save enough money up so you've got a year that you can spend full time trying to get into the game, but you've got to be an athlete. You've got to have a great personality to start with. If you're an athlete, that's half the thing. And if you've got a good personality and charisma, that's half the job.
You definitely have the personality and charisma of Bushwhacker.
Yeah,
Bushwhacker Luke.
And we come from a little country which was only 3 million people, and we never dreamed that we'd get on that platform at WWF Hall of Fame. Never even thought of that.
Bushwhacker Luke, do you think me and NORBZ have a chance to be a tag team champion right now if we started? We're pretty old, but I think we have a shot
now, guys.
I'm inching closer to 40, so I highly doubt it.
We're both in the early 40s, so yeah, I don't know if it's too late or do we still have a chance or. No, I don't think. We'll just be like just hosts on podcasts. I don't think. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much, Bushwhacker Luke. This has been another episode of Tea Time with Tommy. Thank you, everyone who's been listening.
Thank you, Bushwhacker Luke.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
Appreciate being on Tea Time with Tommy. I enjoyed it, guys, and I hope you do good. And all my fans out in Canada and whoever's listening to this podcast, remember, Bushwhacker, Butch loves you, baby. Whoa!